Okay, so this is going to be the first video in a tutorial series about particle systems. Particle systems can be used for very different effects. They can be used for fog, they can be used for explosions, they can be used for fire, they can be used for auras, glows, they can be used for highlights. So because there is such a wide range of usage for them, there's really no great place to start. So we're just going to start with one and then go from there. This one is going to be considered the introduction to the series because we're going to only deal with like 5 or 6 attributes of the particle system, and then in the later ones we'll deal with more. So we start by going to Game Object and Particle System. What a particle system actually is, so if you click away from it, it's actually the same image repeated over and over and over again. Now in later tutorials we'll talk about changing this image, but in its default it's the same blurred circle just repeated over and over and over again. Now what you do with that image, you can make it smaller, you can make it larger, you can make it transparent, you can change the color. There's so many things that you can do with it. And dealing with particle systems is kind of like sculpting, that you have to make a lot of little changes to get the desired end result. So we're going to deal with only like maybe 6 or 7 attributes this time. So first, let's move this off to the side of the screen. What we're going to try to do is make fog. So up here there's a transform, okay? So you can rotate the object. So you can rotate the particle system. So what we're going to do is we're going to, you can either use the rotate tool here and then you see the circles that you just click and move, or you can change the corresponding values here. So let's go ahead and rotate this inner circle because I want to point it from the left side of screen to the right side of screen. So as you can see, you can also then just tweak this so that's close to 0, so we'll make it 0 and the other ones are 90 even. Let's now slide that off the screen because we don't want this point to be on the screen because we don't want to see the fog suddenly appear. We want it to kind of roll in. Now let's go ahead and change the start size. So this is the size of these individual particles. You'll see how it changes quite rapidly. Much bigger. Now let's slow down start speed. Let's change it to 1. Alright, so it doesn't get very far. So now we need to change the start lifetime. This is how long the particle lasts. So let's change that to 25. So now you have a very slow moving particle. They're probably still too small and they are disappearing outside of the camera. So this line right here is probably hard to see, but they're definitely disappearing outside the camera. So the start life is good. The size is probably still too small though. Let's go ahead and make that 6. Okay, there is a shape to the particle system. Wasn't going to deal with it in this one because it's kind of a bag of worms, but we'll only change one aspect of it. So down at the bottom here you'll see shape. And for any of these to be activated or utilized, there needs to be a check. So all these that don't have checks, they're not being used. It's only being used if there's a check. So it starts off as a cone. You can change the angle, you can change the radius, you can change where it emits from. Now in this case, the angle is the angle of the far end. And you can see it over here. So we're going to shrink that. So now rather than being a cone, it's more of a box really. And now for angle, that's really this. So not angle, excuse me, for radius rather. So you could change it, say if you want more fog. So we'll go back to 1. So now let's we're gonna collapse that, because if it's expanded, then you have to see that, and you may not want to see the shape of it. So let's go ahead and move that down. Let's see how that looks. Okay, got to pre-warm it. So pre-warm means that it has already run one complete cycle. So the start lifetime is 25. It will have run 25 seconds if you do the pre-warm, because you could see it was just creeping over there. So the fog we want pre-warmed unless you want the fog to actually roll in. Okay, there we go. So you do have a little bit of transparency at the top. You've got a little bit darker areas. But this is more of a cloud. So like maybe if you're in a plane and you're looking out a window, this is what you'd use. So, but that's not the particular effect we're looking for. So yes, you probably could use this as a cloud. You're in a plane, looking out a window. We want more fog as opposed to clouds or mist. So let's push this down a little bit more. So we cut off that bottom. And now if you change start color, you get a color selector. So let's go ahead and go to like gray. And let's run that again. Okay. Not bad, but very subtle changes, and you kind of lose the sense of rolling. Okay. So what you do is you're going to start stacking particle systems. So we're going to copy this, I'm going to paste it, and so now you've got a particle system on top of a particle system. So what we do is this one, we click on the start color, and we're going to make it lighter. And you really can't tell the difference between the two because one is on top of the other. So you have to make some changes. So for this particle system, let's make the start size smaller. Now you can distinctly see that there's darker there and lighter in the front. And now, because it's closer, maybe we're going to have it move just a wee bit faster. So now it's smaller per particle and it's faster. So now let's run that. So now that's really starting to take shape. It doesn't quite have the wispy feel, because ultimately the individual particles are still moving in a linear effect, or should I say a linear motion. Let's make that a little bit faster. That didn't quite change enough, so let's make that 1.5, and let's make the start size actually slightly smaller. Let's make that 3.5. And so you start to get the sense of what I'm talking about, how it's like sculpt, and it's just the devil's in the details, all these little things that you have to change to try to get what you're looking for. Okay. Now that might be a little bit too distinct for your liking. That you can very clearly see there's this lighter patch versus a darker patch. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one more. So let's actually move that particle system down a little bit. And then we're going to do one more particle system on top of both of them. So let's copy the first one, paste it, and for this one we're going to make the start size even smaller. So that one was 3.5, so that one's 2. And let's see how that looks together. You can't really see it because it's not on top of the other ones. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. You can mess around with the z-axis, which is really kind of imprecise because it's a 2D game. Let's do that for now. So what we'll do is we'll take this first one and move it in the z-axis so it's further back than the other ones. Take this one, move it so it's like in between them. And then we'll turn this back. And let's see how that looks now. Now, to finish it off, this one that's in the front, we are going to apply transparency. So in the same menu where you apply color, you can also apply transparency, which is the A, the alpha down here. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a look to see how that looks. So now, as you can see, there is definitely a distinction. You kind of see almost like cotton balls in here now, that it definitely has a greater sense of, you kind of have these pockets as opposed to this homogeneous appearance. If you want to see the difference, what you can do is let's just slide that one down vertically. So you can see you don't have, it's much more homogeneous. You don't have those kind of pockets of brightness. So let's move that one back up. Run it one last time. So there you go. So that's very, very introductory. So that's how you really create fog, or if you stuck with the white color, probably could have just clouds. And again, it's a very kind of old school kind of fog, because it's rolling, but it really isn't wispy. It really, you don't have like little curls coming off of it. You'd probably have to come up with much more particle systems in between these to do it. But that's really the beginning. So that should do it for about this one.